You deserve more than 10 minutes once a year where you're brushed off. And if all you leave with is a script and no one's talking about diet or lifestyle or sleep or sunshine in your eyeballs, keep looking for a new doctor.
You're listening to the What the Gut podcast, where busy moms can come for a holistic approach to health and vitality. I'm Allison, your host, a holistic health and wellness coach. In this space, we'll dive into the intricacies of achieving holistic wellness while balancing the demands of daily life as a busy mom. What the Gut is your haven for navigating the challenges that come with juggling numerous tasks while aiming for a healthier, more balanced life. Join me as we uncover practical solutions to common health hurdles, from managing fatigue to understanding all things gut health. Through insightful discussions, actionable insights, and tailored lifestyle strategies, my goal here is to empower you to embrace a vibrant, nourishing life while saying goodbye to being overwhelmed and exhausted. So if you're ready to embark on this transformative journey towards holistic well-being, hit that subscribe button. Get ready to discover the secrets to thriving in motherhood while nurturing your overall wellness. A quick reminder, everything discussed here is for educational and empowering purposes only and is not intended for personalized medical advice. Consult your personal healthcare provider for personalized medical advice. Welcome to What the Gut, where we create our own path to holistic health, one episode at a time. Welcome back to What the Gut. Today, I'm sitting down with Dr. Krystalyn Lowery, a powerhouse in women's health and the founder of Navigate Wellness. Dr. K is on a mission to revolutionize how we approach PCOS, hormone imbalances, and fertility using a science-backed functional medicine approach that actually really helps get to the root cause of the issues rather than masking the symptoms, which, if you've been here long enough, you know that I'm all about that. Now, Dr. K has a background in genetics and a deep passion for helping women reclaim their health. She has been at the forefront of challenging the traditional medical system to truly put women's needs first. Whether you're struggling with hormonal imbalances, infertility, or really just feeling dismissed by conventional medicine, Dr. K is here to shed light on what's really going on and how you can take back control of your health. Welcome to the podcast, Krystalyn. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
I know. I'm really excited to have you here too. It's just, I always wake up and I'm like, who's going to be on the podcast today? Who am I talking to? And it's always so fun. I love doing this. I get to meet so many cool people. It's so fun. So I know that you have a long story of how you got into this. And I know we could hear long version, short version, but I know that your background though changed what you started with and how you got into this. Tell me and our listeners what got you into where you are now, where you love to help other women with fertility issues and PCOS and hormones.
Yeah, I like to joke it was divine intervention because it was like a true 180. Even my family was like, wait, what are you going to do now? I had been on such a set course for a really long time. I went to university at the University of Minnesota. I studied genetics. This was quite a while ago, over a decade ago. And epigenetics was more established, but it was more about looking really into the research. And people still weren't completely understanding the diet and nutrition that affects epigenetics. Is more like, oh, okay, now we understand a little bit more about methylation. And at least the lab that I was at, not to throw shade at anybody, but when I spoke about epigenetics, they were really like, yeah, that's not going to affect cancer. And so we were just like, now,
And
that's
now we
almost
laugh.
here. Right. So it's insane to say that. I haven't kept in touch with them, and I should really dive in and see if those same researchers, of course, I'm sure they're in a different lab now, but really, I worked in genetics, cancer biology research lab. We did in utero pediatric cancer research, and basically Stanford got published on two of the same topics in Nature, which obviously anybody who's nerded out, any of your audience is super nerdy. Oh, that's great. Like, that's not just some random run of the mill publication. Cool. Got published in Nature, and everybody was so upset. Oh God, they beat us. And I was like, okay, what if, let's read it. We'll pull all their data and we'll leapfrog. We'll piggyback on what they've learned. We'll get the next step, and then we can submit to be published, and we can just keep going back and forth until we figure out how to cure cancer. And it was these strains of in utero cancer were ones that you would be pregnant, and if they caught it in time, you would be told that you're going to birth a baby with a death sentence. And how horrible, right? It's just the most heartbreaking, terrible thing. So I was like, we're going to save babies. We're going to save families. This is the best thing ever. I was really gung ho about it. But what we were doing, we were basically knocking out parts of the genome. And the way we were trying to come at it, there was no like, why? Why is this happening? And it was just still very much of your genetics are 100% predetermined. You cannot change this. And those strains that still, to my knowledge, have no quote unquote cure, but it really got under my skin that no one was asking why.
Mm.
Why are these women, some of them who have birthed healthy babies before, now are having a child with a death sentence? What changed? Because same ingredients, same mom, same dad, right? So that to me was really, I was like, but they could have a healthy child. And I go, well, it's just the genetics, the way they combine. And I was like, one, I get that and the chances, but it really just got under me. No one's asking why. Everyone brushed me off when I asked why. Oh, that's pseudoscience. And so I
Mm.
just, had a wonderful woman that came work at our lab. She was dating a guy in natural health sciences at the time. She was going to yoga. I'd never done anything, these things. She was just such a positive influence, like a little guardian angel. And I did a complete 180. I no longer decided to pursue my PhD. It was just a little awkward because at the time my boss was on the admissions council. I worked in his lab and I had to be like, I'm going to pull my application. I don't actually want to do this anymore. He was great, super supportive. He got his PhD at Duke. He was really cool, super great guy. And then I went and got my doctorate and decided anything has got to be better than this. So we're going to do something more positive. And I didn't even know what functional medicine was at the time. And it was like another 6 years before I even figured out that functional medicine was a practice that you could help
Right.
people with. And yeah, it was huge, total lifestyle shift and mental shift. And if I can overcome a lot of those things, I just believe anybody can change their mind on health and wellness and root cause healing because I did.
I love that. I love that you pointed out too, like you didn't even really know there was a name for this kind of study. And it reminds me, like going back to my own health journey too, like I was trained in Western medicine. That was all I knew. That was the environment I worked in. And then asking your own questions, whether it was because of the research you were doing or your own health issues, it's why is this happening? And the second that you realize that, wait, there's a whole other community of people who actually went to school for this, for the why, and it's called something. It's like you are not alone. And like the feeling of that, it's great because you can learn so much more about it. You don't have to ask why all by yourself. And some of the why other people have asked and figured out or something.
Like, you're not the only trailblazer alone. It's like you were a ship at sea and it's dark and it's night and you see a lighthouse. You're like, there's life
Yeah.
out there. I'm not alone. And it's,
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly. That's crazy. Yeah. No, it takes me back. It's good to remember where you came from. So
It is because then you can help bring someone else along. You're like, hey, look, we can walk the path together. I've been where you've been. And I think for so many of my patients, that's, what makes us a more relatable office. I'm sure for you as well. People are like,
yeah.
oh, you're not perfect. You've been here. I had so many weird, terrible diagnoses. At one point, I had a doctor do an MRI in my brain. And we're pretty sure you have a brain tumor, but we can't find it. So we'll just have to wait until it gets big enough to find it.
Oh,
And I was sent home. And all of the things we're told, right? I was put on the pill. I have never given informed consent to be put on birth control pill. And I was on multiple different kinds before I started learning all these things that wrecked my hormones. And now I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. It's very much in remission. But like when I look at the cascade of things, if anybody functionally trained had looked at me, they probably could have had a really positive intervention in my life so much earlier. You don't know what you don't know. And so there's no shame
exactly.
in that. And
Yeah.
hopefully they meet you or they meet me or they meet somebody who's trained like us, somebody else in our community to help them.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I know you mentioned like birth control. Why do you think birth control is like the primary management tool for PCOS? And what do you think too are like a lot of the misconceptions? We hear that birth control balances your hormones, which y'all, birth control, let me just say this. It doesn't balance your hormones. It completely suppresses them. But Krystalyn, I would like your input though on what you think as well.
I think it's easy. We could go down a huge rabbit hole. Me and one of my friends always joke about someone asks you about health and you're like, how far down this rabbit hole would you like to go with me? And I really think that it's easy. The biggest change I really wish, if somebody was like, hey, Magic Wand, what's one thing you wish you could change? Because you're not going to change it all. I really wish that we could just change the vocab around it from being like, because you're right, 100% people are like, oh, this balances my hormones. No, it does not. You're not actually menstruating. I wish that we could just say withdrawal bleed instead of a period. Okay, so you'll withdrawal bleed every 4 weeks, right? Here's the way that we're going to talk about this that is truly going to help revolutionize the way we talk about it. It makes sure your hormones are never designed as a woman to be exactly the same every day. But if you take the pill as prescribed, you wake up, you take it at the same exact time or before, but whatever, however you take it, or worse, like Depo, right? You're getting a shot, Implanon, Nexplanon, any of these interventions, you are now making your hormones in some way more of a man. Men have the same hormonal profile every single day. Women are not designed to do that. And so when you are on the pill, you're so much easier to predict, to control. We even talked about women in sports where women who get to a high level in athletics, it's, oh, great, we'll just put you on the pill or something to basically get rid of that just nuanced part of your life that is such an inconvenience. It'll make us easier to train you because most of our exercise science research until very recently was done on men. So we'll train you like a
Right.
man. We'll treat you like a man. We'll manage you and your symptoms like a man. And so I mean, it makes it easy more than I think the last study I read, it was like 58% of women, well over half of women are not being put on birth control or choosing to go on birth control for prevention of pregnancy. It's for symptom management. And it does that pretty lickety split. So I think that's why it's the primary, is because, like, great, you're complaining. Here, we'll give you something that makes you stop complaining.
I've talked about like birth control and PCOS on my podcast with a bunch of different people before, but this aspect of it has not been pointed out. And I love that you're pointing that out because it's so true. And I just think back to like grade school, whenever, or middle school, high school, like whenever you're learning about the menstrual cycle, what little bit you do learn, but you're not even ever taught, like people, women, men, anybody in general, we're not ever really taught about a woman's hormonal cycle and how it changes. And there's different phases each month. And that to me is huge because it is completely different than a man's. It is
Yes.
like it's completely different. Birth control, so many different kinds, not even to mention like the heavy metals with the different kind of like implanted ones. That's a whole
Yeah,
thing.
like the rabbit hole, right? We could have a whole 2-hour podcast just on birth control.
Yes.
Like, it would be
But
easy.
I was put on birth control as a teenager for irregular periods, I think.
Yeah.
Like, it was either irregular periods or my cramps were bad. It was, like, one of those. But
Symptom management.
I remember maybe complaining or mentioning it once because I never thought it was a big like, I think I just mentioned it, and I was put on birth control. And I was on that for at least, gosh, 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And I just, like, looking back too, you think about too, like, women's in today's society, like, we are so, like, headstrong and, like, masculine in our energy, and it's like all of our hormones are being suppressed, so we don't
Yeah.
have the space to even be feminine.
Feminine. Yeah. And in our feminine energy.
Yeah, and a lot of times too, you hear women who have no sex drive, and it's like, your hormones are completely suppressed, and yeah, and that's the thing too, I'm going down that rabbit hole. As women too, like, having our menstrual cycle, the part where we bleed, like, that is one way our body detoxes,
Yeah.
and if we cannot detox properly, we are holding on to all of these toxins, getting autoimmune disease, all of these things that women are more prone to. Women are
Yeah.
more prone to autoimmune disease than men. Women are on birth control, not men. It's we need to wake up. We
Yeah.
have
And
to.
there's so many things too, even right at the time of this recording, obviously this won't be at the same time, but this is Endometriosis Awareness Month. And a lot of people even come to our office present with unexplained infertility, but no one's ruled out endo. And you can have silent endo. The number one complaint really is like painful periods, but we're so conditioned to think, oh, painful periods are like a rite of passage. That's part of being a woman. Or here, then let's fix it with the pill. So underneath, you can start to have all these issues depending on where that endometrium like tissue itself, so it's not the same, is migrating to other parts of your body. You can have scarring on your fallopian tubes. If you're on that for 10, 15 years and underneath it's been covered up, suppressed, your endo's getting worse and worse. By the time you come off and they act, oh, I've had a regular period for the last 10 years, I'll just be able to get pregnant. And nothing could be further from the truth. For some people, that does absolutely happen. But if you had undiagnosed endo and maybe got put on birth control as a symptom management when you were young, 'cause you were having painful or heavy periods, now you come off and sometimes that scarring, you're looking at either excision surgery or it could be permanent. You may not be able to conceive without assisted reproductive technologies
Right.
because someone said, oh, we'll just suppress it and look, you have a normal cycle when you're
Mhm.
just having withdrawal bleed. You're not having a normal menstrual cycle at all.
And so many more women these days are struggling with infertility, and
Yes.
put all of these pieces together, y'all. It all makes sense. Now, I'm wondering your opinion on or what you see as far as like long-term effects of being on birth control, especially like for these women that have PCOS or endometriosis and how it does impact their fertility. You touched on it, but do you
Yeah.
see anything else?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that they're never given informed consent, so they don't understand how they're under, like, especially one with PCOS or endometriosis, is a great example, is like, you have an underlying condition. Endo and PCOS are different. Sometimes people confuse them. It's really interesting to see how many people are like, oh, then you have PCOS. And then they actually get a proper workup and maybe they have like silent endo or totally something else. Like I don't really opt into a lot of allopathic clinics any longer. None of my doctors on my team are really in an allopathic model. I can see how someone would have diagnosed me 4 years ago with PCOS. I had the hallmarks, even like the Rotterdam criteria, which is what we use to diagnose currently PCOS, which I don't love anyway. They surveyed PCPs and OB-GYNs, and the vast majority of them were like, oh yeah, Rotterdam criteria. That's what we need to use to diagnose PCOS. And then they followed up and said, great, can you list those three criteria? They could not. 60 some percent of them couldn't name the three criteria, but they're out there diagnosing
Yeah.
PCOS. AMH hopefully will be brought into it, and we could go down that rabbit hole in a minute. But I think that the lie is that one, so many micronutrients are being depleted. Even if you were on, let's say you wanted the pill, you're really like, yes, I want the pill. I know that there's underlying risks, and you've been screened for clotting factor issues, and you don't have PCOS, and you don't have endometriosis. You just really want to make sure you don't get pregnant. Because that's something, another lie that's right, or that's something that's been sold to, I think, women. Oh, you can advance your career. You'll be able to control your cycle. Again, just like another thing we could talk about. But so let's say they really do go into it. Then we have to talk about micronutrients, because any other issue you have underlying, what process in the body doesn't need magnesium, right? You're going to be depleted of B vitamins, folate, vitamin C, zinc, magnesium, like such crucial things. And it would be so easy. Another simple change. You take a 14-year-old, 16-year-old, or however old person, you put them on birth control, saying, hey, here's a women's focused multivitamin formulated. You need to take this every day as well so that you don't become more depleted. That's not hard. There's so many
Right.
things that we could do. But when it comes to infertility later, we have to address those micronutrient imbalances that might have been getting worse for years and years. You're never going to come out of pregnancy more nutrient replete than you went in. Like, I
Right.
have never seen it. It is hard making a new human, and then it's even harder keeping them alive. It takes a lot from you, especially if you're going to breastfeed. So it is so important to go into, even if you need assisted reproductive techniques and technologies to do ART, you're going to do IUI, you're going to do IVF, you're going to do FET, whatever you're going to do, the better nutrient replete you are, the better chance you have at sustaining a pregnancy. And I think that's a big issue that I also see, that there's not a standard at fertility clinics for a standard workup that looks at a lot of more advanced factors. And also, there's not a lot of focus put on, I mean, there is in some ways, but like sustaining a pregnancy. Somebody's like, great, we'll just do another round. We'll just do another round. And now you're on more artificial hormones and on and off birth control. And there's so many underlying things that are just like being swept under the rug because we have the technology to overcome it. And then we can go into childhood illness. That's why I moved from postpartum and prenatal care into preconception and started studying more fertility. So I was like, oh, we now have the technology to like artificially keep people pregnant that maybe their body would say, hey, we don't have the resources and the health and the metabolic and cellular health to sustain this pregnancy healthfully.
Mhm.
And then you would miscarriage, which is so heartbreaking and just traumatic for everyone. But we can keep these people pregnant now. But then we end up having kids. I listened to your podcast a while ago about GLP-1s, right? Now we're saying, oh, children need them because they're being born GLP-1 deficient. Like, why do you think that is, right? Again, why? Coming back to the why.
Yeah. And I love that you pointed this out too, as far as a lot of times these days too, maybe I'm more aware of it. I'm at the age where I'm hearing more about it, have friends going through it. But women might be able to get pregnant, but then have miscarriages, multiple
Mm.
miscarriages, or it seems like more babies are being born with certain birth defects, things like this. Like I said, maybe I'm hearing more about it. I'm not basing this off of any research right now. This is all strictly my opinion. But the ability to sustain a pregnancy, that emphasis is not highlighted enough as far as if a woman goes through IVF and she doesn't get pregnant or she gets pregnant, can't maintain the pregnancy. It's, oh, let's just do another round of IVF. Okay, maybe, but what are we doing for the woman to enhance her ability to sustain that pregnancy? I had an acquaintance of mine who was going through something like that, and she asked me to review some of her records for her. I was not her provider, it's like a friend, and I looked through everything and I was like, "Okay, you're not having trouble maintaining it, like, you're not having trouble getting pregnant." This is on the opposite end. It's like she easily could get pregnant, but she could not keep the baby. She couldn't
Yeah.
sustain it, and I was like, "We if it were me, we would focus on different things here. Maybe we do need IVF or something to help get you there, I don't know. But your body is protecting you from something, and it's not strong enough to hold a baby right now." And I'm not saying that's the case with everybody. I'm not trying to say that your body's not strong enough to hold a baby. That's why you lose the baby. I'm not saying that at all. But in some cases, I think that has a part with it. There's things we can do to always prepare our body for pregnancy. Something that I always like say is if you're trying to prepare your body for pregnancy, especially if you've never been pregnant, it's like you really got to focus on that like a year in advance or so. And I know you agree with that as well.
Mhm.
I'm curious though, when we say that, people listening, what does that look like to you?
It is challenging. I've had patients choose to go with other providers for sure over it. We worked with a lot of one-on-one clients in my private clinic that had PCOS, and we were able to successfully help them achieve and sustain a pregnancy, some with ART, IVF, something technology, and some without. We address both partners, and that's like we can put a pin in that for now, but we could talk about like DNA fragmentation in sperm and how much of pregnancy loss is even right not on the woman. So it is a
Right.
partner program we're like, this is a team sport, takes two to make a baby. But when we're focusing on that recurrent loss and issues with let's say the female side of it, 'cause that's what we're talking about right now, depending on initial labs and initial workup from PCOS to preconception prep program, we encourage abstinence, whether that's condoms or BBT, whatever they want to do, tracking, we do natural family planning. And we encourage them to say, okay, let's take 4 months. It's a 4 month program. Because if you think about the amount of time it takes for sperm and egg to mature, if you're at 3 months, you're on the edge, right? 60 days, 70 days, you're like, okay, where are we at? So if we take 4 months, that mature sperm and egg are going to be a lot healthier after making these changes over 4 months. And a lot of people they don't want to do that. They're like, no, my goal is to be pregnant by Christmas. We put all these unrealistic expectations on ourselves. I feel like as women, I've never had a man be like, I want to have a positive pregnancy test to share with my family on Christmas. And if you're out there, dude, send me a DM. Like, I love that. But most of the time, man, I just want to help her become a mother. I want to build a family with this woman I love. It's just this beautiful thing. Sometimes men don't put quite as much pressure on the timeline. But these women are like, no. But then we started seeing people that were, yeah, recurrent failed transfers, recurrent, like where they were just like, okay, what's 4 more months? Because sure, we could try to get you pregnant or we could try to work with you for a month or two. And then you go back we would co-manage that with IVF clinics. And then you come back. But if your body still doesn't, we haven't addressed the root cause of the reason you're not sustaining a pregnancy, male or female factor, then
Right.
you're going to suffer. And this is not just physiologically what you're going to suffer. This is such an emotional, deep grief. We work with a lot of amazing counselors that were with postpartum depression, anxiety, and then we had to start finding people who were like pregnancy loss counselors. We work with String of Pearls, and now I lay me down to sleep for infant loss. There's just so many amazing charities out there. And I'm like, I do not want to be part of putting you through that loss again. So if you do not want to do our protocols, I'm so fine with that. I want you to have a beautiful family. And after taking this many people through this, I'm like, here's my best recommendation is let's try to not get pregnant for the next 4 months while we work on the quality of the baby you're going to make, your placenta, and like all of these things so that you can get and stay pregnant and be healthfully pregnant, have a healthy child. That's
Mhm.
something to celebrate. For me,
Well, and if there's
we
one
have people that
thing
like that.
yeah, no, if there's one thing that I've learned through pregnancy and birth, it's you literally have no control. You're like, the Lord's gonna do what he wants to do. Let me just say that. You do have some control, right? Like, you make some decisions in that, but let me tell you, it's gonna just let it go the way the Lord wants it to, honestly.
Be a
'Cause
wild ride, right?
try to
Feels
fight
like
against it, it's a lot. But I know we were talking about male infertility or, like, the fertility aspect of the sperm too, and sperm quality. Ladies, if you're out there doing all the things, but, like, your husband is still smoking, drinking, super depressed, but not doing anything about it, all of this affects his sperm quality, and so much of infertility, the emphasis is put on the female, but It goes both ways. It goes both ways. And that is not announced enough either.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. And that's something else. Sometimes we do have also women present to an initial consult, and we do the best we can. I'm never going to not take somebody on as a client, whether they don't want to stop trying for 4 months or they don't want their husband involved. Like, you're welcome in our clinic, however you wish to do this. But at the same time, you're going to know that here's our recommendations for you. And we do have people who say, my husband just really doesn't want to do this with me. And that can be challenging. And a lot of times I find if you're listening and your husband's, I don't really think it matters much what I eat. I want to support you, but maybe he's still out there, yeah, drinking, having lots of beers with the boys on the weekend or to unwind or whatever it is, eating processed food, a lot of sugars. We can really go down the realm of metabolic, unfitness, and how that affects sperm health. And that is going to be a huge factor, especially if someone presents me with recurrent pregnancy loss. I'm like, hey, babe, this might not be you at all. And so a lot of times for those men, if you can get a good sperm test, testosterone, if it's in the budget to pay for more advanced tests that usually are covered by insurance for like DNA fragmentation of the sperm, a lot of times guys are a little bit more data motivated. When you get the numbers, nobody wants to see that their DNA and their sperm is fragmented and that their testosterone is low. And they're like, oh. So sometimes that test, if your husband's, oh, babe, I'm going to support you in this, but I think I'm good. Test early, not often, I guess I'd say, but if you want to have a baby with your partner,
Yeah.
have the male tested as soon as you guys start thinking about it. Maybe if you get married and you're like, we don't have kids yet, you want to get pregnant, get some baseline testing done on both of you now, because then you can make more gradual shifts and you never have to sit needing me with my office going, we've had three losses this year. I don't know what to do. We're running out of money. We're running out of hope. What do I do? I never like having that conversation.
And so much of the time, too, I see the female just more eager to get pregnant and have the child. And guys, y'all are just go with the flow more, it seems. Oh, if wife wants to have another baby, yeah, I'm down for it. Whatever. But what are you doing to prepare your sperm for this? I can't emphasize that enough. Like, you definitely, guys, like, y'all participate just as much as we do, even if we are the ones carrying the baby. There's so many factors that go into it. But
Absolutely.
I want to go back to PCOS for a second. And I know that there are like different diets that are more recommended if you have PCOS. So can you talk about that? I know that there's like carb tolerance, insulin resistance. I know it's an individual approach, but what is your take on that?
Yes. I love that I'm on a podcast right now called What the Gut, because gut health is a huge thing, right? That we focus on. And so huge. If your gut is not well, you will not be well. I don't know about, so my background, my first functional medicine certification was from the Institute of Functional Medicine. That was my first postdoctorate cert that I got. And they literally teach like, when in doubt, go to the gut. You're not quite sure where to start, or, oh my gosh, this is like an immune system, a endocrine system, and everything is on fire. Go to the gut. The diet portion of PCOS is crucial. You cannot outwork out a poor diet in general, and definitely not with PCOS. However, it is very, very bio-individual. And I love talking about this because I think there was a research put out. So a lot of people got, oh, we'll just do keto for PCOS. For some people, that works really well. For some, it truly does not. So it is still individual. But I think it's back in 2013. Oh gosh, I hate quoting things without remembering it. But there was a committee. It was like over a decade ago now. They actually petitioned to change the name of PCOS. So maybe that's something we could segue in, is what is PCOS? Polycystic ovarian syndrome or polycystic ovary syndrome. People do refer to it by both names. There's a lot of misconceptions around it. And they felt that so much of, oh, it's PCOS, it's all about your ovaries. So let's just put you on the pill. You'll have more regular periods, because one of the biggest things with the Rotterdam criteria that we talked about, 3 of them, irregular periods and ovulatory cycles is one of those things. Hyperandrogenism. So are you having either hair loss or inappropriate hair on your chin, chest, abdomen? Basically, are you producing more androgens? And we'll talk in a second about diet and insulin and blood sugar affecting that and how that plays a role. And the third one would be cysts on your ovaries. And the big thing about that is they call it cysts on your ovaries, but it's not the same as if you had like an endometrioma or you had a chocolate cyst that was rupturing, causing blood, and now you're in there looking for cysts. It's an immature follicle. It is showing that your body is working so hard to ovulate and it can't. So these follicles don't get mature, and now you have a buildup of those follicles. that is the quote unquote cysts in PCOS and polycystic ovary syndrome. It's not a cyst in the same way that I think most of us think of cysts. So they petitioned to
Right.
rename it metabolic reproductive syndrome because they wanted people to understand that this is more than just a problem when you get pregnant. This is an underlying issue that affects fatigue, your HPA-TG axis, your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, ovarian, thyroid axis. This is affecting everything. And most of these people have a very strong underlying metabolic issue. And if you think maybe you might have PCOS, we have a quiz. I created a special page for all the gut listeners with like our favorite things that, I think will
Awesome.
benefit your listeners. And we have a what is my PCOS type quiz. And
Yes.
I feel like that's sometimes a little buzzwordy, but basically, it's like, how do I identify the root cause of my PCOS? And insulin resistant PCOS is a huge piece of this puzzle. But there's also like post pill PCOS, right? You're like, oh, is this a real thing? It's not actually, there's no ICD-10 code for this. So it's a little bit debated. We can look at hypothyroid in there and adrenal PCOS. There's so many different quote unquote types. And now, like Instagram influencers and everybody's, oh, PCOS type. I need to know my type. Ladies, that means your root cause. We're trying to identify the primary root cause because it is multifactorial for sure.
Yeah.
So depending on what is the underlying imbalance for you, keto might work really well. However, you can calculate your carb tolerance. We can go down that if we want. But looking at basically insulin, I feel like most of your listeners might know this, but just crash course. You eat something that's a carb, doesn't have to be bad. Carbs can be really good. We did a workshop last fall before the holidays. We'll probably do it again called Carb Confidence because I really don't want every woman with PCOS coming up to Thanksgiving here in the States and Christmas and all the luscious holidays to think, oh, like I have to stay keto or I'm going to have a PCOS flare. How do I manage like all of the carby refined sugars that are going to be coming at your poor body? But when you eat a carb and your body senses that your blood glucose goes up, that's sugar, that's fuel. Then you release insulin. Insulin goes to the cell, it brings the channels to the surface of the cell so that glucose can come in. However, when you do that, it's like the boy who cried wolf. If you're constantly like, oh my gosh, sugar, your cells will become more resistant to that call of insulin. Insulin's going to come up and they're going to actually block the channel and say, no, we're actually good on sugar and fuel inside the cell. We don't need more. But
Yeah.
sometimes that becomes disrupted and we're still eating more sugar anyway, in part because of processed food and the way our food has become freaking
It-
food and it's not
Yeah.
real food.
Yeah.
Yeah. We always joke, did it come from a plant or was it made in a plant, God or ground versus, like is somebody manufacturing this quote
Right.
unquote freaking foods? When we have that, the thing that I think we also often don't hear about insulin resistance, people go, oh yeah, my cells are more resistant to insulin. One, there's ways to help reverse that, which we can talk about in a minute. But two, different cells become resistant to insulin differently. So not every cell in your body is going to become the same amount of insulin resistant at the same pace and speed. And so this is why, totally different topic, but going down because people are higher risk for this. They're calling type 3 diabetes for Alzheimer's and dementia
Yeah.
because your brain doesn't become insulin resistant the way your skeletal muscle does, the way your ovaries do. So when you have this uncontrolled blood sugar, you have this insulin resistance, that's when the theca cells in your reproductive system are actually going to start making more androgens. And now that's when you're starting having, hair on chin, on face. If you've got, that almost like 5 o'clock shadow where you've got some little chin hairs, and then you're like, well, it's more than just a couple on your, abdomen. You're starting to notice that you're showing those signs of more masculine features. That would be from an underlying metabolic condition, uncontrolled blood sugar, insulin resistance, and now your theca cells are creating too many androgens. That's like a hallmark issue at the root of PCOS. And if you are put on, let's say, birth control, now you're going to have a withdrawal bleed. It seems like you are cycling, quote unquote, normally, but you're not. That's not a period. You're not cycling normally. And
Yeah.
underneath, your blood sugar is still out of control. Your insulin is still insane. Your body is still building more and more metabolic dysfunction, creating more androgens. You're still not ovulating. But look, I
Right.
have a regular cycle. No, you truly do not. And it is a disservice to women who sit in front of us in a healthcare setting to say, great, we'll just put you on the pill and normalize your cycles and let their thyroid get trashed, let their metabolic health get trashed, let their brain get trashed. This makes us hugely higher risk for cardiovascular disease. February every year, we talk about this cardiovascular disease is
Yeah.
way higher than with PCOS because of this metabolic dysfunction being the root cause.
Yeah. That's it's crazy. It really
Yeah, sorry, I know it was like a huge soapbox out for
I
sure.
mean, like, I love it. I couldn't agree more, and I think, like, people need to hear this. It's just I was trained in Western medicine and functional medicine, but Western medicine first, and we're just not taught any different. Like, providers are not taught a lot of this. Like, the things that you and I are talking about right now, for those listening, like, we know this stuff because we have done our own research or gone back to further our education. We both went to IFM, things like this. Which is just the basic of the basic education that, like, providers, like nurse practitioner school or medical school, what we're taught is, okay, these are the symptoms somebody has, put them on this pill. And that's it. Like, we're not even given the opportunity or even encouraged to ask why or to search for the why.
Yeah, exactly. I was to say you are so controlled
They
over minutes,
Yes,
right?
and I think even in clinic, looking back at time in clinic, if you're in a traditional clinic, your doctor provider only is given X amount of time with you because clinic policy is all about insurance policy and making money
Well,
and
billing and
making
money. Yep.
how many people they can fit in. And so you're only given a slot of 10 minutes or something. And the doctor doesn't even have, like I said, they weren't even trained on to
Yeah.
figure out the root cause. So it's not your provider's fault. Like
No.
somewhere in the system, we're getting brainwashed. Just do this and do this. But then it takes people like you and I who have either gone through our own struggles or seen it with other people to like just take a break and be like, what the heck is happening? And if you sit back, y'all, and just look at this pattern that Krystalyn's talking about of just like being on birth control for so long and sperm quality, think about like your husband, what was his lifestyle like in his early 20s? And then you'll get married and quality of that sperm and like how long you've been on birth control mixed with any of these other things. And then you can't have a baby. It makes complete sense. But
It
when
does.
you go to a provider for IVF therapy or something, maybe there's some out there. I'm not saying it's everybody, but in general, like they're not taught to even review some of this stuff with you. They don't know. It's
It's
just,
hard to know. Like you're probably going to pick a provider either in network or close to you. And
yeah,
that is another challenge. So I know I feel like that was just like sounds a little doom and gloom, but let's pick 5 things. So let's say you're like, okay, I think that's me. I might have insulin resistance. Like one, fiber would be great. Fiber and protein are things I talk about. If you don't get any fiber, which are it's notoriously low in the standard American diet. The other thing, if nobody knows this, we use the standard American diet in nutritional research studies to show basically the worst way you could eat. This is what they use as the
that's
control, the least
horrible.
nutrient dense.
It's the sad diet, the
It is
standard
literally
American
sad,
diet.
right? It's so
Sad
sad.
diet.
Your cells are sad, your body's sad, your endocrine system is definitely sad. If you don't eat any fiber, like you could start at 5 grams of fiber, just start reading labels would be like a first thing. What is in this? Can I pronounce the things that are in this? Try to eat more whole foods. You're going to be getting a lot more fiber from things like vegetables, even fruits. I think a lot of times like fruit is really vilified, especially PCOS. Oh, it's really high sugar. If you're eating a whole fruit and you're eating it maybe as dessert, I'm not telling you have to give up every single thing you love. Try first adding in fiber and then making sure you're getting enough protein. My PCOS patients, they know at least 30 grams of protein at breakfast because
Yeah.
if you start savory, and we
Mhm.
could talk forever on this,
I
right? But
Yeah,
like
that's
right, breakfast,
how your blood sugar is gonna
yeah,
go. Mhm.
and it'll change the way you were like if you eat oatmeal with no protein in it and lots of sugar, maybe out of a packet, tons of brown sugar, all sorts of sweet stuff, and then you have a cookie later, your blood sugar spike and drop will be more intense than if you have some eggs and some healthy protein and healthy fat and fiber at breakfast, and then you have that same cookie. It's
Yeah.
less of a spike. So like fat, fiber, protein, those are your friends. And then the carbs, just think of more carbs that are in a whole food form, that carbs don't have to be the enemy. Doing movement throughout the day to help use up that glucose, body weight squats, heel raises, toner push-ups. If you have not been active, walking, get outside, get some fresh air, start
Yeah.
counting your steps. There are so many things you can do to start reversing this process immediately.
Yeah.
Even if you're going to stay on birth control, okay, then get a quality prenatal. Do you use full script? Is that what
Yes.
your practice? Okay. So guys, if you are with Allison, she's got full script. We've got full script. It allows us to pass out a discount for you and you can get high quality brands shipped right to your door. There's usually like an extra discount. If you put them on, I can then 5% off because I have my Prenatals on auto ship, right? It's a good win to just make sure you don't forget. Make sure you're getting something that has all of those nutrients that you're going to be depleted with. And then get with a practitioner who can look at a root cause, whether that's one of us or somebody near you, or like,
Right.
I don't care who, but you deserve more than 10 minutes once a year where you're brushed off. And if all you leave with is a script and no one's talking about diet or lifestyle or sleep or sunshine in your eyeballs, keep looking for a new doctor.
Yes. Mic drop. Yes, that is it. That is it. No, Krystalyn, I know that in the summer or the spring, summer, like you're going to be coming out with From PCOS to Preconception Prepped program. Okay. So by the time my listeners hear this, I'm thinking that will probably be out.
Yeah,
So tell me and our listeners what that's about, where they can find you and do that.
perfect. Thank you. I can put a little piece of information on the bottom of the page that I created for your listeners.
Okay.
So if they are somebody that thinks they might be dealing with PCOS, whether they have a diagnosis or not, it's a great opportunity to look into how to help balance your hormones. It is a 4-month program. It's hybrid. We have group coaching calls, AMAs with me. So I do a teaching coaching call once a month. They have group calls where they can be on there, and then they have one-on-one calls with me as well. Every single month, you get a one-on-one hour so we can go over anything private. If they want to have labs ordered or if they've already got some, they can bring those and we'll review them ahead of time. And then there are modules that we go through and they're recorded online, access to that to teach and consume at your own pace. And then those group questionnaires and AMAs are about like, okay, I watched this about blood sugar. I'm not completely sure I understood. But we used to take patients on. It was thousands and thousands of dollars to work through this one-on-one. And I felt like I had a 60, 70% of the conversations, we were teaching the same foundations that they
Same
needed
thing.
to get down
Yes.
before we could get more bio-individual. And people were paying me for my time. And I was like, this is, and that creates a barrier. There's only a certain number of people that can pay for IVF so many times and pay somebody. I'm out of network, so that's a good thing. No, pay cash and pay cash for labs. And I just felt like it was really creating a barrier for people that were like, I also want this knowledge, but I can't pay for 25 hours of your time to teach it to me. And so we've taken those foundations and turned them into modules. And not everyone maybe will feel like every single one of them applies. So like in the second month, there's different videos on like different root causes. So if somebody's, hey, my thyroid labs came back beautiful. They're great. Great. If you want to skip the thyroid module, but like I still think it's good for you. No, maybe your sister, maybe your mother, like maybe postpartum, right? Postpartum Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, right? There's so many
Yeah.
issues going on that you might deal with that you want the knowledge for. And so it's much more accessible. So if they want to hop on with that, we'd love to have anybody, or if they're interested, we'll do probably a webinar for it, probably once a month, just as people are like, hey, I have questions. Great. We'll hop on a webinar. I'll give you a preview of it. You can ask questions. And then if they want to join us,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
remember
awesome.
preconception prep starts 4 months minimum prior to conception. But just like you said, a year is even better. So if you're
Yeah.
thinking you want to start your family next year or the year after, now is the time to start making gradual shifts. It's so much easier to just proactively start going, okay, we're going to think about changing out, like our personal care products. We're going to think about what foods we're eating. We're going to think about our movement. Way easier than waiting until you're behind the 8 ball and going, I'm staring down recurrent miscarriage. I'm staring down unexplained infertility diagnosis.
Yeah. And it's also going to make your pregnancy easier because these healthy habits are going to be instilled already. And so
Yes.
once you get to where you are carrying that baby and pregnancy, you are exhausted. So many things are going on in your body. But if you've already got these healthy habits instilled,
Yeah.
that's
Especially
awesome.
high protein, girls. Like that's my number one hack. Protein, fiber, healthy fat. If you only take one thing from this, make sure 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight, ladies, per day in protein. Measure your protein because most of us are just insufficient without even realizing it.
I agree. I'll be sure to link this all in the show notes for the listeners who want to do that program, check it out, that kind of thing, and the PCOS type.
Yeah, we'll put the quiz right on the page
Yeah.
and got a couple like lab testing guides and things. So it's super fun. All of the things that we share are meant to help you guys. We put a blog out every week. We have our newsletter. We just want people to be able to make their healthcare decisions from an educated and informed place where they feel empowered
Yeah.
because people have a lot less regret when you make decisions out of fear and uncertainty. That's when I hear people go, I wish someone would have told me, I wish I would have known. Your choices might
Right.
not look like mine. They might not look like your sisters or your best friends, but if they're made from a place of education, empowerment, and peace, that carries through for your future. and it's
Yeah.
something no one can take away from you.
For sure. Krystalyn, this has been so much fun. Thank you for being here today.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Allison. Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of my journey on What the Gut podcast. For a deeper dive into today's topics, head over to allisonandwellness.com/whatthegut or find the detailed show notes linked below. Hey, and don't miss out on future episodes. Hit that subscribe button, and if you love this one, please leave me a review. Let's keep the conversation going over on Instagram. Connect with me and stay updated and engaged with my awesome community. Plus, share these valuable insights with your tribe. They deserve to feel as amazing as you do. You can find me at Allison_and_wellness on Instagram. Your support means the world to me. I'm looking forward to our next awesome chat. But until then, stay curious, don't drink too much coffee, keep the vibrant energy flowing, and take care of your gut. Catch you real soon. Oh, and hey, if you're ready to dive deeper into personalized wellness, check out my one-on-one health coaching program at allisonandwellness.com. Let's make your journey to holistic health truly transformative. Hey there, it's Allison, and if you're anything like me, coffee is a non-negotiable part of your day. But did you know that most coffee is loaded with mold, toxins, and pesticides that could be messing up your gut and hormones? Yeah, no thanks. That's why I only drink Purity coffee. It's organic, tested for toxins, and it's packed with antioxidants that actually support your health instead of wrecking it. It's smooth, delicious, and best of all, it does not leave me feeling jittery or bloated. So if you're ready to upgrade your coffee game and support your gut at the same time, grab a bag of Purity coffee today. Your body will thank you. Oh, and because you are part of the What the Gut family, I've got a special link just for you. Just head to puritycoffee.com and use code AllisonGetsWell for 20% off your first order. Cheers to coffee that loves you back. Hey friend, let's talk about something real. Bloating, stomach pain, and fatigue. You do not have to live like this. I know because I was there too. I was frustrated, exhausted, and trying everything, but still felt miserable. And that's exactly why I created my Get Well one-on-one gut health coaching program to help women like you finally get to the root cause of your symptoms, heal your gut, and feel like yourself again. No more guessing, no more Band-Aid fixes, just real, sustainable solutions tailored to your body. So if you're ready to ditch the bloating, boost your energy, and actually enjoy food without discomfort, let's do this together. Head to AllisonGetsWell.com or reach out to me on Instagram at AllisonGetsWell to learn more and apply today. Because you deserve to feel good in your body every single day.